Thank you for coming to our panel on as we talk about a student's perspective of the emergence and implementation of AI in both the classroom and in the industry as a whole. My name is Anna Steele, and I am here today with a panel of brilliant students from the Rochester Institute of Technology, who I will let speak for themselves.
Hello, everyone. My name is Terlyn Bird, and I am enticed and excited by visual effects, and I look forward to discussing the impacts of AI with everyone.
How's it going, guys? My name is Miles Stelling. I'm super interested in color. I love color. I'm super excited to see how AI might get implemented in color tools in the future. And my voice is not doing too hot, so I'm going to attempt to be concise today.
Yeah. And my name is Maxwell Schaefer, and I primarily work in motion capture and virtual production, and I'm excited to continue to see the rise of that in those industries specifically.
All right, awesome. Thank you, guys. So let's just start it out with a nice and easy question. So just how are you guys using AI in your daily lives?
I can take that one first. I use AI pretty often in research and production products, specifically with motion capture. We started comparing it to a Vicon marker system, and pretty much as soon as AI became usable. And so we're really excited about it. We were able to give it really crappy data, and it does amazing things with that. And so when we do give it good data, it also is excellent. But our main thing is we're kind of not into AI for motion capture yet because it doesn't have a lot of personality. It's very much if you do you don't want normal walk cycles. You don't want that in animation. And so I'm excited to see how we can add a little bit more personality, a little bit more just traditional like 12 principles of animation stuff in motion capture. But for video games and all those other media where we do just want standard walk cycles, standard anything else, it is excellent. It's very dope.
Yeah, awesome. How about you guys?
Yeah, I use some AI tools relatively often in my classes occasionally, but also in work. I have some, there's some troubleshooting problems I'll run into or programming things, and there's a lot of tools out there that are very good at interpreting programming, and that, tends to help me a lot. But that's where it tends to kind of stay for me, yeah.
Well, as far as visual effects go, there's not a lot on the market in terms of AI. At least in the creative process, AI is wonderful for creating generative images and helping artists and creatives get a feel, a vibe, and a mood for the type of feelings and that they want to invoke in their projects. So I use AI to create mood boards and to refine my direction in the things that I want to make for people. And right now, with the Adobe Suite, there is generative AI that was just recently included. And though it is not great, I can see it becoming great. It's not the best at creating hands. Like, it can do basically everything but hands and eyes. So for those that have been acquainted with that new update, Godspeed.
Yeah, awesome, guys. So as far as education goes, I know you talked a little bit about how you are using it for your classes. What would you like to see regarding AI in education? Do you think that you are using it like as best you can, or like what would you like to see? What would you like to learn about?
I believe that AI should be more included in the curriculum for all major disciplines. People need to know that AI is not going away and that there is a responsible and ethical way to use it. And if instructors were open to teaching students how to use instructive prompts and how to filter that information, I think that the upcoming generation would really value from being taught how to use AI efficiently and how to use it ethically.
Okay, building off, that's really interesting. So do you think that instructors would be better off embracing the use of AI in the classroom rather than trying to limit it?
Well, I know in my experience, there is a really big split in professors at RIT. You have those that say, yeah, go for it, use AI. And then you have those that say, if I catch you using AI, I will fail you. So there is a really big, there's teachers on both ends of the spectrum. And I think that right now, especially with the way that the world works, there needs to be a spectrum. There needs to be people that say, use it, but with caution. And there needs to be a lot more openness. I just think that people need to be more open.
Yeah, just adding on to that, I mean, like Terrellyn said, we're pretty sure it's not going anywhere. And like any new tool or any new development, it's good to be informed about it at the very least. And so I totally agree. I think there's a need for education there. And also jumping off of, speaking about professors and how they start to incorporate it into their curriculum, if they incorporate it into their curriculum. I've actually had experiences with like a handful of classes this past year that have embraced it and have given us assignments or things that are saying, go out and test this thing. We know it's not going away. We want you to go explore it and find out how it works and find out what's good about it, what's bad about it. I think that's super awesome. I think that's what we should be doing. We should be curious about this kind of stuff,
Yeah, and to get away like more from the, okay, how can we use it like specifically in the classroom? It's not replacing, core physics and core computer science. So it's just as important to make sure us as students don't rely on it. So we continue to have a huge basis in computer science, radiometry, and all those, either really awesome classes or that really awesome knowledge set that makes, advancements in imaging and advancements in motion picture science, possible. And
so you don't think that, it will devalue foundational learning and part of like the college experience?
No, of course not. I mean, like, I'm very proud to go to RIT because of how many great, professors we have, and a lot of the core science is really neatly explained to us in 4 years. It cost us a little high. We'll get over that as soon as we get our name out there. But yeah, so I absolutely don't think it's gonna devalue education. You're never gonna be able to chat GBT like radiometry or color management, and chat GBT is never gonna be good. Yeah, I mean, the amount of times just if I were to ask it, I guarantee it all it would say talk about is Rec 709, which obviously we're moving beyond.
Yeah, so have any of you ever like tried to use it for something that you learned like as part of the foundations of your coursework and then it just didn't work?
I don't know. I think it runs into a wall eventually. Generally in my usage, I've found that it's okay at some stuff. Like it's pretty good at math, but that's also because we've had math for forever. So it's got a lot to train itself on, right? But it kind of does run into a wall eventually.
And just to tack onto that, there's obviously that's going to get better. It's going to continue to improve, and it maybe eventually can do more things. But the primary reason that I like AI in education is because in our education, because we do have a ton of classes in C++ and computer vision, but we're also starting to get into machine learning classes. So just to have an understanding of, your weight decay or max pooling and other like convolutional layers. So that way we're understanding what, even if we're not the one, us specifically are not the ones designing machine learning algorithms, we are able to understand it. So that way, when we give an image to AI we're understanding what's changing in the image structure.
I would have to agree with you, Max. And I would also like to bring up a very interesting point in the fact that there's a common misconception with college students that we're using AI and that it's so irresponsible, right? But I think that people also only believe that there's one type of AI. ChatGPT is talked about a lot, but there are many different AI engines. Like Google right now has an engine, and it's called Gemini, and Gemini is hooked up to Google, and you can search the web for whatever you want. And AI in educational settings where people may not have the ability to go to office hours, or they don't have the privilege of focusing on their schoolwork exclusively, it helps even the playing field for topics that may not be readily accessible to everyone. Because I know when I got into college, I had never heard of Fourier. I had never heard of the transform. I didn't know what digital color management was. And you don't know about matrices and things of that nature, but you know that you have an aspiration to learn. And I think that AI being placed in the tools of scientists of tomorrow is helping us get to the places that we want to be. And at least with visual effects, I find that AI is exciting, and it helps also create a demand, because there's always this question of, where am I going after I get this degree? And I'm going to be entering the workforce, right? But when you're using technology that is new and it's growing, you also are being exposed to the problems that it has. So when we're enrolled in classes like computer vision, and you have an engine that cannot see well, you now have a niche. You can go out into the world and say, I'm going to solve that problem for Google, or I'm going to solve that problem for Adobe or Apple Pro. And all these buzzwords now become money words. So
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you feel about people looking to really our generation as the first generation learning specifically about AI and machine learning? How do you feel about people looking for us to take the lead on AI integration as we enter the workforce?
I definitely believe that people have a high regard for Gen Z, and a responsibility is placed on us to not only build that AI, but to make sure that it is responsible. I know for Miles, there are implementations of AI for like the color world that people are also interested in.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of interesting ways that, I'm sure it's being implemented already, in ways that I could definitely see it being implemented. I think, things built on like language models are super duper compelling. I mean, the idea of doing like almost kind of like previs for color, or your pre-color, and saying like, I want you to take this image and make it a specific look, and just being able to say that makes it incredibly accessible and makes it super, intriguing. Anybody could walk up and say, I want it to look like this, just with words. And that's crazy. I think that's something that, it opens up doors for, it doesn't take as much technical oomph to get there. It's just you saying, I want it to look like this. And I think there's huge potential in that. And I'm super excited to see tools like that come about. I think I've seen a few online. I did like a little bit of hunting around. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like there's people already, there's people with this idea already. That's great. And yeah, I can't wait to see it like grow from there as well.
Yeah.
But to say that AI is new is, yeah, I mean, over the past couple of years, of course, it's exploded, but machine learning has been around for a long time, especially in motion capture. There's a lot of technical papers that we reference from 2006, and of course they're starting. There's more and more technical papers getting released on how exactly we're optimizing machine learning to be able to better capture human motion. But it has been around for a while. So in terms of that, especially in the industries of health sciences and other non-traditional film workflows. So I'm really excited to see how it continues to progress. But like there is a strong base, and we do, as this generation, we do sit on the shoulders of a lot of really, really smart giants.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, thinking about what we were talking about earlier of including it in our education, it's already being included in our education right now. I'm super grateful for that. 'Cause I feel prepared to walk out there, and if someone was like, hey, we're trying to implement a model to augment whatever tool that we're using, I feel like I at least have the foot in the door to be able to say, oh yeah, I understand what we're speaking the same language. And I could totally help work on this. Like I'm, excited to as well.
Yeah. So actually, two of you kind of brought up an interesting point about, just like how education, there are a lot of barriers currently in the world of higher education, and how AI can actually maybe be used in the future to level the playing field. Do you think that this is something that people would be able to use to their advantage, and maybe people who aren't coming from the same background as the general like college student would be able to take advantage of?
I definitely think I think it's more I think it's a lot more if you're saying like leveling the playing field to bring younger professionals up to the level of industry professionals. I think that there's always going to be a gap there because AI is never gonna be able to. I don't think that AI is going to get to a point to train you to an industry level, but it is. I think it is. It is able to at least expose you to concepts that you can work with your higher ups, your mentors, and stuff like that. Your professors if you're in college. So I'm gonna go with no for that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Max. I think there's some potential to, it's a tool. It can be used to assist you to learn more. Absolutely. But I, like I said earlier, I think there is a limit. I think it's good at a lot of stuff. I think, it makes it more digestible in some ways, and that's awesome, like sometimes even more than, classes that I take and those kind of things. It's like, but yeah, I think there's definitely a limit there, and I think it reaches it pretty fast. I don't think it'll close the gap in that way.
Gotcha.
I would kindly disagree because we're talking about education and we're talking about the goal of becoming a professional. I think that sometimes we get lost in we're not really seeing the forest for the trees, right? We're students and we have a goal of becoming professionals. And with AI, the way that I advocate for it is that it is a gateway. Just like the internet was. People said that the internet was going to kill all the jobs, and I feel like every 10 to 20 years there's a digital rapture and people start to lose it in the sense that, oh my God, there's this thing and I'm never gonna get a job. The robots are gonna outlive the humans, this, that, and the third. We've all heard it. But AI, we walk away with one thing, that it does level the playing field. It gives you the ability to research, to be acquainted with terminology that you don't use in everyday life, and it makes you better at problem solving and at refining what's true. Because there's a lot of weariness with what's that word that people like to use?
There are a lot of them.
No. It's about like the truthness of data. You know what I mean? You want to fact check and you want to make sure that what you're doing is credible. Credibility. AI attacks a lot of credibility, and what you're trying to do when you're educating yourself is build that credibility. So AI levels the playing field and giving you the ability to refine what you know. And saying that when you go and you put in a prompt and it's not correct, you can say it's not correct. Like you have the ability and the autonomy to take what you need or what you want from it. Everything comes with a grain of salt. Books come with a grain of salt. So I think that AI levels the playing field, and I will always be an advocate for it. Because especially being a Black woman in STEM, there are some people that are not going to help you. And AI could make the difference between getting that homework done or taking the 0.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that you brought up, the anxieties surrounding that. Cause I know, that is something that's been very heavily talked about regarding AI and machine learning. And that I can totally understand where that anxiety comes from. But also, the name of the game is curiosity about these things. At the end of the day, they are tools with limitations, and it is better to, anxiety is like the fear of the unknown there. And that's why I think it's so important to learn about this stuff, be informed about it, and it becomes a whole lot less scary. Like I can say firsthand, I mean, some of us up here are in a machine learning for like image analysis class, and I could say that it definitely did a whole lot for, at least for me personally, in being like, oh, it was this lofty, like, vague, nebulous word before. And now I'm like, okay, it's a tool. It's got limitations. It's got all these things. So, yeah, I just thought it was interesting that you brought up the anxiety. And if you have that anxiety, I would just encourage you to go learn more, because it's, that's the name of the game, I think.
Yeah.
Because even like we say, okay, machine learning is used to create new tools, but there's so many tools even within machine learning that refines machine learning algorithms and stuff like that. And so, getting exposed to those kinds of things at a young age is really awesome. Especially as kind of the film engineers, the people who are going between the computer scientist and the creative, to be able to explain to the creative, look, you're not losing anything. You're still able to create whatever you want, achieve the desired aesthetic. And then you're telling the computer scientist, okay, make sure that these things don't happen, so that way we're losing something about the image structure, whether color fidelity and resolution, I don't know, whatever it is, making sure we are getting those two people in the same room, and being able to be the translator, between those two things. I really think that's awesome, and a huge reason why I love, my education at RIT.
Yeah. So you talked about like having a specific niche in the workforce, like since we have experience in AI and we have learned about AI, do you see like having knowledge of AI from like a credible university impacting your place in the workforce in the future?
Yeah, I could take that. I mean, we've talked a lot about education already, so I'm probably reiterating a little bit. But I think it's incredibly valuable. Like I said, it is, if it's scary, then it's just because you don't understand it yet. And then once you start understanding it, it becomes way less scary. And super valuable, like it is a hot item right now, and people are going to ask you about it. And if you have any knowledge about it, sharing that, is great. It's super valuable. They're going to say, wow, this is this new hot thing, and these people know about it already. That's wonderful. Right. So yeah, I mean, I think I've said valuable 5 times now, but I think you get the point, right? Like, yeah.
Oh, okay. So building off of what you said, I could say that I don't think that AI is really going to impact the workforce, or not that much. Like my place in it, at least, is not going to be threatened, because people don't ask you when you're going to a job, like what research or how did you go about performing that research, or how many times did you use AI to do X, Y, or Z. It's just, do you know what you know? Do you have the skills? And RIT is a wonderful school at equipping students with the skills and the know-how and the finesse to enter any field that they want to. And I feel very confident in my place in that workforce and AI's ability to not impact it. What do you think, Max?
Yeah, just along the same lines, I would say. Yeah, so I would say that AI is never going to replace, a student having knowledge. It's never going to replace working with mentors, like I was saying earlier. It's, you want people who are curious. You want people who know what they're talking about and willing to learn, so that way they continue to know what they're talking about for the future and future technologies. But yeah, I'm pretty much the same as you guys.
Yeah, perfect. All right. So I guess we're coming kind of towards the end of our time here. Do any of you have really any closing remarks, assurances for anyone, about AI and its place in education?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know. I was curious about what Max just said, and I don't know. I just want to jump off of that and say that, a lot of the conversation too, in the filmmaking industry, right, comes down to, or I've seen a lot of anxiety surrounding, is this going to replace artists? And I think the resounding answer is no. At least personally, I think the resounding answer is no. Everybody brings something unique to the table. And you can use AI to emulate that. But at the end of the day, it's being fed by things that have been created by artists. And it ends somewhere. And I think that, it's people's creativity is something you can't replace, certainly. And I think anybody, thinking that or looking to do that, is going to find themselves in a bad spot at some point, probably.
Yeah. And to jump off that even further, I'm really, like I was saying at the beginning, I really would like AI to have a little bit more personality. Make it better, make final tweaks so it starts to look real. But, I really would like to add, a little bit more personality and be able to tune that just for the same reason that we don't film movies on a colorimeter. We want it to have the Arri Alexa look, the Sony Venice look, the red, whatever their flagship, the Raptor now. But yeah, so I'd want to give creatives more tools using AI to achieve their desired aesthetic easier. And it's talking specifically in mocap. I want a little bit more bounce to a step. I don't want it to look like a normal human in animation or even VFX. I want it to look, larger than life. I know that some people may not want that, and I'm glad that we can be able to tune it, but, I'd want it to look, if I shoot a mocap film or I'm doing motion capture for a video game, I want it to look like a video game that I hand animated. And right now I think it's not at that point. So just continuing to evolve AI to give more aesthetic tools to artists is going to be really awesome.
Yeah, just briefly too off of that. Like I said, I mentioned tools earlier that, are like text to color grade, right? Or something along those lines. And I think that's great. And I also made sure to say, I think that's very much like a pre-visualization thing. I don't think it does the whole job. I think it's great for pumping out some ideas. And I think that's also, been a lot of the sentiment surrounding this stuff is that it's great for conceptualization and pumping out ideas. But, like I said, it ends somewhere, and it's actually a pretty short leash, I think.
Yeah, totally. I think.
I think that my closing remarks regarding AI is that in this digital race that we are all currently witnessing and experiencing, AI is just the fuel, and it's going to help us and empower us to go where we want to go, to feel what we want to feel, and make what we want to make. We are not slaves to AI. AI does not constrict us, and I am a big believer, and I am genuinely excited for the things that AI is going to do and what us as a civilization will become as a result of whatever we decide to create with it. So
yeah, awesome. So we have a few minutes left here. I would like to give the opportunity for any of you to ask us a few questions. So does anyone have anything? Yeah. Okay.
Are you gonna volunteer your mic?
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. So.
Oh, wonderful.
I don't
You do need it.
Each of you,
Yes.
what is one problem you would like to solve in the next 2 years?
Well, it's hard to narrow it down. No.
I would say that I would like there to be more tools so that way we can make retargeting a little bit easier, give the current AI models we're using. So Wonder Studio is the one that we did most of our research on, but we also have associates to the program that are designing a free mocap system using pretty much webcams that we can just USB plug in. And so I would say improving those so there's a lot less noise in the position of joints, especially when we go through retarget, so that to a higher skeleton with more bones. I would say something to give it a little bit more fluid motion, especially in the spine and the fingers, stuff like that. And so that would be where I would want to go is specifically getting motion capture from the motion capture to Maya or Unreal or wherever we're going with that.
I didn't have mine earlier, but I have mine now. Part part of what I do in my research for my thesis project is I'm looking at SDR to HDR conversion and tone mapping solutions. And part of the deal with that is oftentimes with SDR, your highlights and your shadows get clipped and crushed. And so if you're converting things, there's just nothing there. You know, you could map it up, but you have to create detail there in some fashion. I think there's a super, big opportunity there. I'm sure it's already being used in some capacity somewhere, but to use machine learning and generative AI to create detail in that based on like the surroundings and the image as a whole. I think that's super cool.
That's just for the speculators, just to make those.
Yes. That and yeah, maybe some shadow detail as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we have time. I saw someone else had their hand raised. We have time for one more quick question and, yeah.
And then we're booted.
Yeah, right.
Earlier on, you guys were talking about how some of your professors, some are like, go ahead, use it, and others are like, no, I'll fail you. What is it that they're afraid of? Is it just like the mid-journey stealing images thing, or is it a bigger ethical thing about like what are your professors afraid of?
I could personally speak to it. For at least in my experience, Carl Salvaggio is an instructor, and he is esteemed and highly regarded at RIT. And with his weariness of AI is that when you're trying to train the next generation of programmers, his weariness with AI is that it will impede our ability to problem solve. So he is very vehemently, yeah, he does not want us to use it. And for the professors that are more open-minded or they're more open to having us use AI, they tend to be in more creative areas because we're motion picture science. A lot of people don't understand what we do. And it is the fusion of film, animation, and engineering. So you have people that are like, yes, use AI to make the mood board, to get the feel, to create the aesthetic for your production, right? And then you have people like Carl that says, no, you need to know how to code. You need to know how things work. And that's been my experience with it. I'm sure that Miles and Max have similar remarks.
Yeah, and so I would start off by I completely agree with Carl on that. It's going to depend on what types of classes we're doing and what the intent of the syllabus is. Is it to gain a core engineering skill or learn how to code? Then absolutely you need to prove to the professor or prove to your mentor, prove to the industry professional that you know what you're talking about and you're able to replicate it outside the classroom. The people that I've actually had the most, been the least open-minded to AI have been the more traditional creative film professors. I use it a bunch for pre-visualization and stuff like that. And, they're the ones that don't fully understand it. It's so new that, collective knowledge has not risen to, a high enough level. So it's actually on the creative side that I'm getting we get the most pushback, because they don't want their jobs to be replaced. And so.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So, everyone, we are out of time today. However, we will hang out here for a little bit if anyone has any additional questions for us. But other than that, thank you so much for coming. And yeah, have a great show.